It feels a little bit like we're doing this at the behest of billionaire Israeli donors. No? Yes?
If you are going to claim that money passing hands makes you a shill for the thing from which you are receiving the money, then I'm wondering precisely why Andrew Schultz and Tim Dillon, among many, many, many others, are perfectly willing to go to Saudi Arabia for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hi guys, this is Sahar TV, and in today's video we'll see Ben Shapiro destroying the argument that AIPAC is controlled by Israel and is funding politicians and buying out politicians in a pretty good video. Let's watch.
One of the things that has been retailed, another lie that's been retailed, is that the reason that Republicans and Americans overwhelmingly actually are pro-Israel is because of Israeli money or Jew money or AIPAC money. And this sort of lie has been wildly trafficked, particularly in sort of the comedian bro world. A lot of comedians have been saying this sort of stuff. And, it's very hard to sort of deal with these claims from comedians because, on the one hand, they will make a claim that is certainly not a joke, like an actual serious claim. They are comedians, so they will then play a Mott and Bailey game where they make a claim that's factually untrue. They're called on the factually untrue claim. And then they put the clown nose on and they say, oh, well, I'm just a comedian. You can't expect me to get it right, which is really a silly way to do things. If you want to make a joke about a thing, make a joke about a thing. If you want to make a serious claim, make a serious claim. I think we can tell the difference. So, for example, Andrew Schultz, who's been very critical of us here at the Daily Wire, for a variety of reasons that I can't quite discern, actually, because they don't seem ideologically coherent. Here he was, fairly recently, claiming that AIPAC is basically running our politics, which, of course, has become a very hot talking point on large parts of the left and, I will say, a horseshoe theory part of the right.
But the real decisions, like if we're going to send more aid to Ukraine, if we're going to send more aid to Israel, those decisions are already made because we continue to make them. Despite Americans not wanting them, the same fucking decision gets made, right? Mm-hmm. Over and over again. America does not support this shit that's going on here. None of us do. We're seeing the death and we're seeing the destruction. We're like, what the fuck is happening? Why do we keep supporting this? Like, what is going on? It seems to feel, at least at this point, that through AIPAC or maybe through other means, there's incredible influence on our politicians. I mean, Ted Cruz is just tap dancing for Israel left and right.
Okay, so, again, the implication here is that Ted Cruz is pro-Israel because he's been supported in congressional races by AIPAC. Not that AIPAC supports Ted Cruz because he's pro-Israel and was already pro-Israel, but Ted Cruz is bought and paid for by AIPAC money. And this is a very common claim that's sort of made in the manosphere or made in the podcast bro sphere or the comedian sphere. It was a claim that was also made by the comedian Tim Dillon fairly recently.
If someone said, I hate gay people, I'd say, okay. But is that grounds for them to be deported? Doesn't this feel like it's going to a bad place? Does it feel good? Does it feel good? It feels a little bit like we're doing this at the behest of billionaire Israeli donors. No? Yes? Perhaps?
Okay, so again, the theory here is that all of America's politics is from the shadows being run by AIPAC or Israeli billionaire donors, not sure who he's talking about there, or Jewish philanthropists or whatever the case may be. That's really why Americans are pro-Israel or why Trump is pro-Israel or why Ted Cruz is pro-Israel or all the rest. The reason I point this out is because if you are going to claim that money passing hands makes you a shill for the thing from which you are receiving the money, then I'm wondering precisely why Andrew Schultz and Tim Dillon, among many, many, many others, are perfectly willing to go to Saudi Arabia for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's a good point. And perform there and receive money from the Saudis. Is that fine? Aren't you being bought for by the Saudis and the Qataris and all these people? That's a great point.
Perform for a regime that is responsible for a war in Yemen. By the way, Saudi losing the war with Yemen was actually quite a bad thing, or at least pulling out of areas that led the Houthis to be in charge. So I'm actually not even critiquing the Saudi war with Yemen. That was the Biden administration. But if you're going to be a war is always terrible, and the people who perpetuate the wars, they're evil. The only reason you'd be pro that is because you're getting paid. Let's just talk about Saudi Arabia and, the people who are paying people like Andrew Schultz and Tim Dillon to arrive. So I asked our sponsors over at Comet, how many people were killed in Saudi Arabia's war with Yemen? Quote, Saudi Arabia's war with Yemen has resulted in an estimated 377,000 deaths as of 2021, with the majority caused by conflict-related famine, disease, and lack of health care. Roughly 150,000 deaths are directly attributed to military operations, including airstrikes and battles, many of which were led by the Saudi coalition. At least 15,000 civilians were killed by direct military action, especially airstrikes. The answer is actually probably much, much, much larger, by the way. If the logic is that Israel is bad because war is bad, then Saudi would be worse because war is bad. But no. I mean, I assume that Andrew Schultz, who considers himself a social liberal, and so does Tim Dillon, that they understand that same-sex activity is still criminal in Saudi Arabia and can be penalized by everything up to and including the death penalty, depending on the circumstances. That in rare circumstances, amputation for theft is still a penalty on the books, although lashes has become more common over.
If you don't know about this, if you steal something in a Sharia law country or Sharia-dominated country, you will get your hands chopped off because that's the punishment for stealing in Islam.
That migrant workers are still routinely forced into a form of trafficking very much akin to slave labor. That actually took until 1962 to abolish chattel slavery in Saudi Arabia. That there is no such thing as free speech in Saudi Arabia. That if you're wondering about free speech, like Saudi Arabia ain't famous for it. But apparently, you're allowed to take hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Saudi monarchy in order to, what? Perform comedy over there? Any critical words? Any critical words of the Saudi regime? See, here's the thing. I don't actually think that Saudi is buying and paying for Andrew Schultz or Tim Dillon. I don't think they're going to change their views on Saudi Arabia because Saudi is paying the money to go perform a comedy show. But if the claim that you make is that all of our politics is run by secret money, by nefarious forces, then you should be kind of careful about the people stuffing money in your pockets, shouldn't you? Now, full credit to Tim Dillon. He at least says the quiet part out loud. Seriously.
Get over it. Get over it. We're going to Riyadh. The House of Saud is paying us hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of us millions, not me, but they're paying millions of dollars to comedians. Get over it. We're taking the money. How about that? How about that? Sorry. Oh, you weren't invited? Oh, you got nothing going on? Boo-hoo-hoo. Boo-hoo-hoo for you. I would never do it. You weren't offered. No one invited you. There's people that I respect that turned it down, but a lot of people are doing it, like a lot, like almost everyone. A lot of people are doing it. They bought comedy. So what?
All right. Well, if that's the way that this goes, then I guess that's the way this goes. And I guess that's that bizarre moral high ground that you've been claiming, maybe you should let that one go.
For the people claiming that AIPAC is buying politicians and that's Israel dominating the American political spectrum, do you even know that AIPAC is built by American Jews? And it's perfectly legal. Israel has no influence on AIPAC. It's simply American Jews wanting the best for a country that their families live in, or, that they have some sort of a connection to, and they just want this country to prosper. AIPAC is a lobbying group, which is perfectly legal according to the Constitution in the United States, funded by American Jews, which was created to ensure Israel is taken care of. Not the opposite, not Israel taking care of AIPAC, taking care of American politicians, taking care of AIPAC, taking care of Israel. It's not like that. This organization was created to make sure that the foreign policy towards Israel is adequate. They have families that live there, that need protection, that need Iron Dome, that need self-defense. Would you blame them from wanting to keep this country safe for their family members that live there? I wouldn't blame you if you were in my shoes. If you'd like to watch more of my stuff, please check out my channel down below. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification button so you can be notified every time I upload new content. If you'd like to support me and the channel financially, you can do that using Buy Me Coffee or Patreon down in the links below. Also, we now have a Discord that you can join down in the link below. And now you can become a YouTube member and enjoy specific YouTube perks. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.